I'm going to talk to you guys about crypto and Web3 fundamentals. And I'm going to talk to you after that a bit more about identity, and specifically identity in Web3. So, that's me. So I got involved in the space in 2017, and I bought Bitcoin at the worst possible moment in December 2017, and I learned that then. And after that, I really delved into the space, started learning about things from the core fundamental level, and since 2020, I've been a content creator and been making content about crypto. So you can find me at Dean Somali everywhere. I speak to a lot of beginners in the space. A lot of people, when they newly get into crypto, it's usually because they've seen a video like this, right, on TikTok. And I don't know about you, yeah, but I've had some friends come up to me and tell me, oh, listen, Dean, you need to invest in this coin. This coin is going to 100x. It's going to be the next big thing. And I tell them, where's your research? Like, what have you looked to get that conclusion? And they show me one of these videos. So these videos, yeah, you probably see them everywhere on YouTube. And what I think these videos do is that they focus a lot on recent news and technical analysis. So technical analysis is looking at the charts in a lot of detail. And I think that has a place. I think that's important sometimes. But I think that what this does is give you a very narrow view of the space, and it doesn't teach you some of the core fundamental reasons why crypto is important. So instead of looking at crypto through those narrow lenses, what I think is important is to look through the space through more broader lenses, which is what I'm going to do now, right? So in terms of economics, yeah, there are asset classes. So there's asset classes here, right? Cash, shares, bonds, commodities, property, art, collectibles. And there's one asset class that I've just thought of that I haven't mentioned on this list. And that asset class is yourself, right? So like the previous speaker was saying, you have to invest if you want something to grow, right? And it's not necessarily just money all the time, right? It's time as well. So by being here today, you have invested money and or time. So that in itself is important, right? So these asset classes, Bitcoin, crypto, it is a new asset class, completely new. And it's tough for people to get their head around that because throughout most of our lifetimes and maybe our parents' lifetimes, there haven't been new asset classes that have been created. But crypto is a new asset class. But on top of that, crypto is not just separate to these, it's merging with these. It's part of all of these. So crypto cash, obviously cryptocurrencies, crypto shares, you can get tokenized shares, crypto bonds. So with Ethereum, you can stake Ethereum and earn a percentage yield over a year. So it acts like the same as a bond. Crypto commodities, also like gold, oil, you can get those in tokenized forms. And what that means is, tokenized commodities, tokenized shares, what that means is the stock market right now only runs from Monday to Friday, right? It's closed on weekends, which it doesn't make sense. But with tokenized shares, it means that you can buy and sell things outside of those times. It opens it up 24/7. And finally, like crypto property, crypto art, crypto collectibles, all of these are in the realms of NFTs. Right, so crypto is a new asset class, but it's merging with all of these asset classes. And this is a graph from a video on YouTube by Ray Dalio. And this guy is the best performing fund manager of all time, I believe. So he's got this video on YouTube called How the Economic Machine Works. And I would highly recommend you watch that video because what he does is he breaks down this graph. And what this graph shows is that the economy moves in cycles, right? And there's a long-term debt cycle, which lasts around 25 to 50 years. And there's short-term cycles within that last around 5 to 7 years. So above all other factors, what I would say is this is probably the most important factor which determines where the crypto market is, right? Where we are in the economic cycle. And the other big driver for the performance of the crypto market is politics. It's regulation specifically. And a lot of people in the crypto space are super against regulation, and I can understand why. But there's other people in the government who are for that regulation. And their argument is that they need to regulate the space because it protects consumers. And in some way, I can understand that because there are people out here that are getting scammed. But the other side of it is that if governments get too involved in regulating the space, it will stifle innovation. It will slow things down. It will prevent people from being able to build, and it will encroach onto our freedoms. That's the main thing. So on that question, it can encroach onto our freedoms. On a global political level, the main fundamental question that cryptocurrency is solving is, can we actually have digital property rights on the internet? I believe we can. I'll touch on that a bit more later on because, in a sense, that's also a philosophical question. So, the dollar. The dollar is the global world reserve currency, right? After World War II, there was something called Bretton Woods, where all the countries came together, and because United States were the least affected from the war, like the UK was crumbled, all the other European powers were crumbled. So in 1947, in Bretton Woods, America became the global superpower of the world because the dollar became the global world reserve currency. And did you know, though, that 70% of dollars are not held by the United States or United States citizens? 70% of dollars in the world are held by countries outside of the US. Because it's the global world reserve currency, other countries use it for trading, for international transfers, and as an alternative to their own devalued currencies. So, for example, El Salvador, their national currency, the colon, was devalued to the point where it became useless. So in 2001, they had to adopt the United States dollar as their main form of currency, right? They had to dollarize. And what that means is, when the United States print more dollars, that devalues all of the dollars in existence. So 70% of the countries outside of the US that hold these dollars, the countries outside the US that hold 70% of the dollars, those are the ones that suffer, right? And they can't control it, right? They can't control printing that. So that's one of the reasons why El Salvador have made Bitcoin legal tender in 2021. And this is a massive moment. This is massive because what it meant is that Bitcoin now has diplomatic recognition. Yeah, so we're past the point of at the conceptual level, the theoretical level. It's real, it's established. So instead of taking the money out of politics, Bitcoin takes the politics out of money, right? So taking the money out of politics would mean legislating human nature in a way that you can't change how humans are going to act. Humans are always going to act if money is tied into politics. So instead, Bitcoin takes the politics out of money because it's not issued by the central bank and it's not under the control of the governments. So just like hundreds of years ago, we separated church and state, right? Separated religion from state. And that was important, right? It's absolutely essential to a free society. So today, what Bitcoin does and crypto, it separates money and state. Yeah, I can't mention how important that is. So these are all old forms of money: shells, beads, animal teeth. And what I want to talk about quickly is how we got from these early forms of money all the way up to Bitcoin today. So with these early forms of money, they were good, right? Because at the time, because they were durable, right? They didn't rot that easily, and they were portable, so you could like carry them around or wear them around your neck. But the problem is, they're not scarce. So someone could just hop on a boat, grab more shells, come back and disrupt the economy. So we moved forward from them. Eventually, societies coalesced over precious metals. And the reason why gold and silver are still popular today is because they are durable, they are portable, but they're also scarce. Right? And scarcity is the key here. You can't make more gold. It's hard to get some more. And eventually, we moved beyond that as well into paper money. And paper money is even more portable than gold. It's lightweight, easy to carry around. And we operated via the gold standard, right? So you could take these old forms of money into the bank and directly get gold back. You could do that up until 1971, where this guy, Richard Nixon, president of the US, he took the dollar off the gold standard. And by doing that, he took all the currencies off the gold standard. And we moved into the fiat standard, right? So we moved from the gold standard to the fiat standard, which is what we use today. So fiat money is this government-issued money that is not backed by anything. And fiat money, the money that we use today, is a pyramid scheme. It's a pyramid scheme, yeah, because with any pyramid scheme, the structure is that the people at the top steal money from people at the bottom, right? And fiat money is a pyramid scheme because the central banks own the only real form of money, which is gold. And they make money by making loans to the banks below them and loans to the banks below them. And it's the people at the bottom, me and you, who suffer, right? We suffer from currency devaluation and inflation. Yeah, so question for everyone. If you had £100 in 1971, how much do you think it would be worth today? Any guesses? 30, yeah, 50p? Yeah, nearly. Oh, what? That didn't mean to be there. I had a chart that hasn't come up, but what that chart shows is that it would be worth £5 today. It'd be worth £5. And this was going to come up afterwards. And so people might say that cash is king, right? Sometimes cash is king, right? But in the long term, cash is trash, right? I know people, their families, they never invested their money. They kept it as cash in the 70s and 80s. And then now they're old. Today they're looking at their money and it can't buy them as much as they thought it could. It's not as valuable as they thought it was going to be. So cash is trash. So people will want to preserve their wealth. They want to invest in something that will preserve their wealth. And throughout time, gold has been the gold standard, right? The most popular form of investment if you want to preserve your wealth and keep it throughout time, right? But if you compare Bitcoin to gold in all of these monetary qualities, Bitcoin is better than gold in all of them, right? So we know that gold is scarce, but it's only semi-scarce because we don't know how much gold is out there in the world. So there could be loads of gold hidden somewhere, and we won't know. And if loads of gold comes into the market, like, for example, in Uganda, they found 31 million tons of gold. And it's that amount of gold that they found is equal to the current supply that already exists. So from that logic, gold should halve in price at some point in the future when all of that gold comes out onto the market. So gold is only semi-scarce. Bitcoin is truly scarce because we know for a fact, coded, that there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. And because of that, it's truly scarce. And scarcity is probably the most important factor when we're talking about monetary qualities. And like with all the other ones, right, it's counterfeit resistant, it's super portable. It's counterfeit resistance because of the blockchain, right? Because of the blockchain, and everything is viewable. And the way that the blockchain is built means that all of the other problems that you might think could happen with digital forms of money, like being able to spend it twice, being able to like hack the system, that's programmed out because of the blockchain. So in terms of portability, it's way more portable than gold. Imagine having to carry around gold physically all the time. It would be a nuisance. With Bitcoin, you can carry it around with no physical items. You can just learn a code in your head, and that's how you can transport it. And in terms of decentralization, obviously Bitcoin is massive. It's way more decentralized. Gold is predominantly owned by central banks. And in terms of divisibility, right, chopping up gold is hard if you want to spend it, whereas Bitcoin, just in a click with a mouse button, you can separate Bitcoin into divisions called Satoshis, which I believe is 8 zeros. So that's another common it's another common issue that people think that you only have to buy one Bitcoin. You have to buy one. That's the minimum number that you can buy. That's not true. You can buy up to like 10 pounds worth, which would be a tiny fraction of one Bitcoin. And in terms of durability, I'll give it to both gold and Bitcoin. They're probably still both going to be here in thousands of years. And fungibility is the other key. So fungibility is the fact that one Bitcoin is equal to another Bitcoin, always, right? But in terms of gold, say you were going to swap 100 grams of gold for another 100 grams of gold, they're different purities. You might be swapping 24 karat and get back something that's dirtier. So that's why gold, it's only medium fungibility. With gold, with Bitcoin, in terms of money, in terms of all of these qualities of money, Bitcoin, this is why Bitcoin is known as digital gold, or gold 2.0. So, just moving on, from an Einstein physics level, Einstein says, everything is energy. Yeah, everything is energy in the universe. And that's all there is to it. So humans, throughout time, have thrived by channeling energy. It's how our society and civilization has developed. We have channeled fire, chemical energy, channeled kinetic energy for using bikes. Our phones channel electrical energy, internet channels electromagnetic energy. It all comes down to networks that move energy around. Yeah? So planes, for example, they transport energy. That energy is in the form of humans or cargo. And cities, these are dense networks of energy. It's like a nucleus in a cell where energy is concentrated together to a point where it can facilitate innovation, it can facilitate efficiency. So energy storage and energy transmission is key. So this is another wicked podcast, by the way, Robert Breedlove, What is Money podcast. And in that podcast, he answers the question, what is money? What actually is money? And from his perspective, money is the highest form of energy that humans can channel, right? So if everything is energy, money is the highest form of energy. And if we're thinking about physics, yeah, space and time are the two fundamental constructs of the universe, yeah, space-time, yeah. So if we're aligning crypto and Bitcoin onto this physics framework, Bitcoin is the most pristine form of monetary energy. Bitcoin is the most pristine form of monetary energy because in terms of space, you can transport it anywhere you want across the world for cheap, easily, securely. So it can transfer across space better than any other form of money. And in terms of time, you can store Bitcoin, and in thousands of years, it will be the same as it was. So this is why Bitcoin is that predominant store of value that you can buy and hand it down to your grandkids, and you know that it still won't be there. So let's move on, right? Sociology, right? So what crypto enables is coordination on a scale that we have never seen before. Yeah, so hands up, anyone. Are you tired of the incompetence of our government? Oh, 2 hands up from some people. Yeah, well, let's see with Mr. Rishi Sunak, but I'm kind of tired with all of these entertainment games. So if you're tired of the government, what you can do now is start your own network state. So this is a book that I've been reading recently that's come out a few months ago by Balaji Srinivasan. And this is the most powerful idea that I have read this decade. It's the most powerful idea. And let's get into it a bit more. So what he says in this book is that it is easier to start your own new country now than it is to reform the current system. So by bringing all of these concepts of crypto and Web3 together, it's a lot easier to bring together a group of like-minded people, start your own community, create your own economy, and eventually develop that into a country. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to reform our current country. So I love this idea, and I'm fully on board with it, because he talks about how all of these different facets of crypto and Web3 will come together to create this next level of the world where we can move away from nation states to network states. So bringing together cryptocurrency payments, digital property rights, laws written by smart contracts, which means that it's written in code. You can't have someone go back on their word because it's written in code. And decentralized finance, DeFi banking systems, where you don't have to rely on central banks. You have decentralized identification, which I'll touch on a bit later, which means that every individual person can be uniquely identified, which is a game changer. And the last thing is bringing together DAOs as well, decentralized autonomous organizations. So what DAOs mean is that people all around the world can work together, they can trust each other, and they can get fairly paid. So yeah, I love this book. So let's move on, right? So on a psychological level, this is probably what I find the most interesting, and it's the fact that the human brain is designed to focus on negativity. Yeah, that's why thumbnails like this are effective, right? Getting people to click. And humans have an ingrained herd mentality. So if we see other people doing something, it will form this snowball that will get loads of people into doing it. And it was important, right? It was understand why we developed that herd mentality, because hundreds of thousands of years ago, our ancestors needed it to survive. But today, what it means is that it makes people buy high and sell low. This is another one of my favorite books, and it's called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. So it's technically a book on behavioral economics, but it's a psychology book. And what he talks about in this book is something called loss aversion, where the pain of a loss is twice as strong as the pleasure from an equal gain. So what that means is, if you lose £1,000, the pain from that is twice as strong as the pleasure that you would gain from receiving £1,000. Yeah, so that means, yeah, humans are not psychologically built to handle a financial loss. Yeah, that's why people sell. They get scared and they get shook, and they sell when the price is low. So what I advocate, what I tell to people is the most important skill when you're investing in crypto is managing your emotions, right? Developing a method to not panic sell. And I believe by understanding the fundamentals I've explained is the best way that you can move from that emotional level into logic, because you understand the fundamentals. So this is another important graph, and what this documents is the price of a crypto, where it will rise and crash, and your accompanying emotions during that roller coaster ride. So understanding that this is how all humans will psychologically respond to prices going up and down, right? So say we're talking about the below bit, the anger, depression, panic. The same way, yeah, like if the fire alarm just started going off right now, or if you just suddenly saw a spider on your leg, you wouldn't be able to stop yourself from raising your stress levels, right? It's like automatic. The same way that if you see the price plummet into the red, you're not going to be able to stop yourself from having that stress release. But that stress release is what will control you and make you panic sell. So understanding that managing your emotions is the most important thing. I can't stress that enough. And on that philosophical level, we've spoken about this already, right? But crypto enables digital property rights. And it's the same, it's equivalent to having physical property rights hundreds of years ago, where there were people in the world who didn't own anything, right? Slaves. And they eventually gained their freedom and were able to own their own assets, own their own property. And that's a game changer, right, in terms of global freedom, right? So digital property rights will enable freedom for us online. And I'll talk about a bit later about the system that we're locked in, how it keeps us locked in, Web 2. And the last philosophical principle that I want to touch on is this writer called Ayn Rand, and she has a philosophy called objectivism, and it's an interesting philosophy to talk about. It's slightly controversial, but the principles in there that I want to talk about are the fact that reason is the tool to understand reality, yeah? Logic, yeah, not emotions. Emotions, they will affect you negatively in this space. So reason is the tool to understand reality, whereas emotions are not. And when we were talking about the pyramid scheme, right, fiat is a pyramid scheme, right? So this other philosophical principle about not sacrificing yourself to others or have others sacrifice to you, yeah, that is that fiat money pyramid scheme. It's not cool, right? So instead, seek win-win relationships with each other. And a system that is aligned with this is one where the state is separate from money. So money and state are separated. And there should be no central bank, and it should be left up to the free market to decide which money is best. So these philosophical principles align with the crypto space. And it's an interesting philosophy.